New year, new me. It's been a year since I started this series, making videos about games coming up next month. And this month is very different, see. It's February. It's the month of Valentine's Day, but not only that, it's the shortest month of the year, not even having 30 days in a year. And next month's games look pretty exciting, all things considered. But if you like this video or any other video I've made, please like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends. And in the meantime, why don't you check out Off the Console? It's a brand new podcast created by me, Gardner Bryant, and Games Revealed, with guest stars occasionally. And while yes, it's on YouTube, it's also available wherever podcasts can be found, like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Check it out. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a realistic open-world medieval style game. Rather than being fantasy-based, it instead is based on old feudal Europe. You've got knights, archers, but definitely no magic. Now, I really wouldn't have expected this game to run well on Steam Deck, yet somehow they did it. It runs well on Steam Deck. I've seen videos from various different content creators like Deck Wizard, who has an early access copy. It's crazy how well this game runs. It runs at like 30, sometimes it dips below, but that's a lot more than I was thinking. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 releases on February the 4th. Rift of the NecroDancer, is it a sequel? I'm not entirely sure, but it's a new game set in the Crypt of the NecroDancer universe. Instead of being a rhythm-based roguelike, instead this is more like Guitar Hero or most other rhythm games. It looks pretty fun, and I have no reason to believe this game wouldn't run well on Steam Deck. This releases on February the 5th. Big Helmet Heroes appears to be a fully 3D beat-em-up, or maybe it's a hack and slash game. Honestly, the distinction isn't super clear through the trailers, but it looks a lot of fun either way. Now, I wouldn't go out on a limb and say this game is super demanding or anything, but the minimum requirements do call for a 1060, which I guess the Steam Deck is technically weaker than. But there is a good chance that the 1060 might just be an overstatement of the minimum requirements. It's hard to know. I think this game will run pretty okay on the Steam Deck. I'd say like, maybe not a solid 60, but pretty close to it. And this game releases on February the 6th. Astral Throne is a turn-based strategy RPG, mixed with a roguelike. The strategy RPG portions more resemble Fire Emblem than something like Disgaea or Final Fantasy Tactics. But of course, with its roguelike structure, it's hard to know what changes due to this. But honestly, I'm down for trying this out. I really want to try this game out, and as someone that plays a lot of strategy RPGs, this seems like a great fit. I'm interested in seeing if the roguelike aspects really mesh well with, the strategy RPG-ness of the game. I mean, to be fair, Disgaea has randomly generated levels sometimes in the item worlds, but it's not the same as like the entire game being focused around it, Astral Throne releases on February the 7th. Civilization 7 is, yes, the 7th installment. Who would have thunk it, right? And I don't really know what's different with this one compared to the others. I really haven't been following, but what I do know is that this game is going to be Steam Deck verified as per Firaxis Games. Now, it is worth mentioning that just because a developer says a game is Steam Deck verified at launch doesn't mean the game is guaranteed to run well. But of course, it is important to recognize that Civilization is a turn-based strategy game. In my opinion, FPS isn't super important for a game like Civ. But for anyone that loves Civilization, here's another one you can add to your Steam Deck and take with you on the go without waiting for an eventual Switch 2 port. Right, fellas? Civilization 7 releases on February the 11th. Urban Myth Dissolution Center has you take the role of someone that's been cursed. Cursed with a debt that needs to be paid. But most importantly, you are solving paranormal cases. Cases that take the form of urban myths. I've covered the demo on Steam Deck, and yes, the demo runs great on Steam Deck, surprise, surprise. But for my limited time with the demo, I can tell you, the game and the presentation was quite the experience, to say the least. Urban Myth Dissolution Center releases on February the 12th. The original Jump King was a viral game where you jumped to go higher and higher. And this game is a sequel to that, except it's a little different this time around. Rather than just jumping around, you are flung into a fully multiplayer RPG, so to speak, with, get this, combat. Now, this game made the transition to 3D, but I firmly believe this game will still run pretty well on Steam Deck, if you ask me. Adding multiplayer and adding combat changes the format almost entirely. Is it even the same type of game at this point? Who knows? It probably isn't, but at the same time though, who cares, right? As long as the game is good, right? I am going to miss seeing viral clips of people jumping incorrectly and then falling all the way down. Cause man, that was so funny. Jump King Quest also releases on February the 12th. Now let's talk games releasing on Valentine's Day. And the first game here is Tomb Raider 4, 5, and 6 Remastered. This follows the original Tomb Raider trilogy being remastered last year. Now we have these games. I'm not going to claim I know anything about these old Tomb Raider games, but I will say I've watched the AVGN video on these, so that's close enough, right guys? Totally, right? I have no reason to believe these games wouldn't run well on Steam Deck. I mean, the newest one, Angel of Darkness, was a PS2 game, so I have no reason to believe it wouldn't run well on Steam Deck. This compilation releases on February the 14th. The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak II. You know, to be honest, I've never played these games, but I've heard a lot of great things about them. And honestly, one of the great things I've heard is that the first one, at least, ran quite well on Steam Deck, so hopefully the second one runs just as well. Honestly, man, I've been kind of craving some good old JRPG action, so this might be my next pickup. This game also releases on February the 14th. Snow Ultimate Freeriding is a procedurally generated skiing game where you ski down mountains that are, as stated before, procedurally generated. No two levels will be the same depending on the seed you pick. And of course, you can choose to aim for a high score, or you can choose to go down a mountain endlessly without the need for scoring or anything of the sort. Now, I'm gonna level with you. I'd kill for a game like this, but with snowboarding instead. Not that skiing isn't cool, but I like snowboarding, so there's that too. As for Steam Deck, well, the developers say this will run at 60 FPS on high quality settings on the Steam Deck. Optimized for the Steam Deck. That's a pretty big promise. This game comes out on February the 17th. Avowed is Obsidian Games' latest game, and it's a first-person action RPG. The minimum specs suggest that you have a 1070, which is still quite a bit faster than a Steam Deck. But at the same time though, maybe that's running under the assumption that, well, you're running this game at 1080p, whereas the Steam Deck is 800p. As such, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this game will probably run okay on the Steam Deck at all low settings. Probably like a 30 FPS if you will. Avowed releases on February the 18th. The Silent Kingdom is an indie JRPG, and I gotta say, man, the art looks really good in this game. And not just the key art, but also the in-game animations as well. Especially the combat screen too. A lot of people have a pre-existing notion of what RPG Maker games look like. But with enough effort and with enough time put into the game, you can make RPG Maker games look great. This game looks like it'll run quite well on Steam Deck, and this game enters early access on February the 18th. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Man, that's a mouthful. Instead of being a JRPG like the newer games, instead it's an action-oriented game much like the older Yakuza titles. Of course, with the addition of the ability to jump and do air combos, which sounds amazing. Not to mention, there's ship battles. We haven't seen a pirate game with good ship battles since, I don't know, Assassin's Creed 4. What I am most curious about is if we'll get sea shanties in-game while riding our boats. Because let's be perfectly frank, every good pirate game must have sea shanties while we're driving our boats. I will say the newer Like a Dragon games never really ran at 60 FPS on the Steam Deck, but a comfortable 40 FPS, and this is running on the same engine as well, so I'm inclined to believe that yes, this game will run pretty decently on Steam Deck if I do say so myself. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii will be released on February the 20th. Also releasing on February the 20th is the King of Fighters 13 Global Match. I'm gonna get this out of the way first. I think 13's art style is the best the King of Fighters has ever looked. But I do understand how expensive it was to make the sprites look this good. So Global Match is an updated version of this game with much better netcode, because I remember the original game had terrible netcode. This has rollback now. And this is a port for more modern consoles. This game came out on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. But of course, this game was already available on Steam, the old version of this game. But anyone that already owns this game on Steam can get this updated version for $7. Yeah, I feel like it should have been a free update, but what the heck. It's better than nothing, I guess. The original Steam version of the King of Fighters 13 has issues on the Steam Deck relating to compatibility, but hopefully this one's a little better when it comes to compatibility. And honestly, it should run really well on Steam Deck. Stories from Seoul, the Gun Dog. It's an older style adventure game. Some may say it's a visual novel, but it's not a visual novel. It's a little more than that. I don't really know that much about this game, but what I do know is giant robots, mecha, sign me up. And honestly, the pixel art looks great. Super. Excellent, even. And as for whether or not this will run on Steam Deck, why wouldn't this run on Steam Deck? Come on, man. Let's be real. Be reasonable. And this game also comes out on February the 20th. Peripeteia is a game I've covered during the Steam Next Fest, a long time ago. It's an immersive sim FPS, kind of similar to Deus Ex, at least that's what it's trying to evoke. So I've tried the demo out on the Steam Deck, but this was many months ago, so the demo ran at a solid 40 and above FPS, never quite 60. Of course, I can see this improving as development moves on, but I will say this game isn't a full release just yet. This game will be in early access. And last I recall, the game didn't have controller support, so maybe that'll come in due time. This game goes into early access on February the 21st. Yes, the full name of the anime is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? But it's better known as Danmachi. Now, I'm gonna level with you, I know nothing about this series, but what I do know is that most people know of that one character. Oh, you know the one, Hestia. So this right here kind of looks like a Metroidvania, and honestly, Metroidvanias are pretty fun. I want to give this game a shot. Oh, and yes, by the way, this is Hestia. Yeah, I know you recognize her. And this game looks like it'll run pretty well on Steam Deck if I do say so myself. This game releases on February the 26th. Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection. This is like 14 different Yu-Gi-Oh! Titles in one. Now, I'm pretty sure most people are just going to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel instead of, playing these older RPGs, but hey, whatever, man. I've seen the insane Yu-Gi-Oh! Plays, the turn 1 kills, and I'm not trying to get involved with that. But these older games where they have a lot simpler rules and, they don't have a lot of the crazier aspects like synchro and like zone. I don't know what the mechanics are in Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore. The last time I really bothered with anything Yu-Gi-Oh! Related, it was the Battle City arc, okay? These are older Yu-Gi-Oh! Titles being emulated to play on anything, so yes, this will probably run really well on Steam Deck. Why wouldn't it, right? This game releases on February the 27th. And this right here is probably going to be the single biggest release this month. Monster Hunter Wilds. The game looks great, and Monster Hunter is always a good time with friends. Though I think the problem starts to seep in when you realize that this game is probably not going to run well. I mean, if the demo is any indication, the game just won't run well on most PCs. And this is even worse with, yes, the Steam Deck. So as much as I want to play this game on my Steam Deck, there's a good chance that this game will not run well on Steam Deck. So I'm going to go on a limb and say, no, this game won't run well on Steam Deck. But hey, if it does, it'll be a pleasant surprise, right? Monster Hunter Wilds also releases on February the 27th. And now it's time to talk about games that are supposed to be releasing sometime this month, but have no official date otherwise. This right here is Guns of Fury. It's like Metal Slug, but also a Metroidvania. And honestly, that's a pretty good mix. I don't see too many games like this, and I want to play more of these, by the way. So this game looks pretty fun. I have no reason to believe this wouldn't run well on Steam Deck. But Metroidvanias are generally defined by their upgrades, so I'm curious to see what sort of abilities and upgrades you get. Like new weapons, new movement abilities, what do we get? I am curious. So as stated before, this game releases sometime in February, but no date otherwise. February may be the shortest month of the year, but it's certainly not short on major AAA releases. Games like Kingdom Come Deliverance II, the Yakuza pirate game, and of course, Monster Hunter Wilds, probably the biggest release of the month. It's a good thing though that most of the other games in this list are releasing before Monster Hunter Wilds, so you've got some time to play those before Monster Hunter Wild consumes your life. And I figure it's a good time to talk about the Steam Deck Next Fest. The Steam Deck Next Fest is a celebration of upcoming games and it happens 3 times a year, with one of them happening during February. This time, it starts on February the 24th and extends all the way to March the 3rd. I will be covering many demos. So when the time comes, feel free to check it out. If you like this video, please press the like button and check out our other videos, and if you like those other videos as well, be sure to press the subscribe button and share the good gospel of high-tech lowlife with your friends. Furthermore, we have a community Discord for enlightened individuals such as you. And if you wish to further support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page, links in the description.